In a quiet valley surrounded by golden hills stood a village called Lumen Hollow. From afar, it looked peaceful rows of clay houses, narrow streets, children's drawings on old walls, and trees swaying gently in the wind. But anyone who walked through its streets quickly felt something was wrong. Voices were always raised. Arguments filled the air like heavy clouds. Neighbors complained about noise, merchants argued over prices, and even children had learned to shout before they learned to laugh. No one remembered when it had started. Some said it began with a land dispute years ago. Others believed it came from small misunderstandings that were never healed. Whatever the reason, the village had slowly forgotten the art of kindness. And, in the middle of this restless place, lived a quiet child named Sammy. Sammy was not the strongest child, nor the loudest. He spent most of his time observing people rather than speaking. His eyes were always searching, watching gestures, listening to tones, noticing how faces changed when voices grew angry. Every morning he walked to school past the same scenes: two farmers arguing over water, shopkeepers blaming each other for lost customers, and children repeating the words they heard from adults. Sammy rarely joined arguments. Instead, he carried a small notebook filled with sketches, little drawings of smiling faces, peaceful streets, and children holding hands. One day in class, the teacher asked, "What do you wish for our village?" Some children said they wanted more money. Others wished to be famous or powerful. Sammy hesitated, then softly answered, "I wish people would smile again." Some classmates laughed, but the teacher simply nodded with warmth. Sammy loved colors more than toys. He believed colors could say things words often failed to express. When he felt sad, he painted sunsets. When he felt hopeful, he painted bright skies and open fields. He imagined a different version of Lumen Hollow, one where neighbors shared tea and children played together without fear. One evening, after witnessing a fierce argument in the marketplace, Sammy returned home with a heavy heart. He spread papers across his floor and began to draw furiously. He drew a giant sun shining over peaceful streets. He drew villagers helping one another rebuild broken fences. He drew children from different families laughing together. His mother watched quietly from the doorway and asked, "Is this our village?" Sammy answered gently, "It's the village I see inside my heart." Days passed, and Sammy felt an urge growing inside him. He wanted people to see what he saw, not the anger, but the possibility of harmony. One bright morning, he gathered the largest papers he could find and carried them to the central square. The square was usually loud with arguments and complaints, but Sammy chose a quiet corner and began to paint. At first, no one noticed him. The market buzzed with its usual chaos. But slowly, curious eyes turned toward the boy with the bright colors. His painting grew larger and more detailed. He painted houses standing close together, hands reaching out in friendship, and children forming circles beneath a warm sky. At the center of the mural, he wrote one word in bold letters: peace. An elderly woman named Khadija was the first to stop. She watched Sammy paint in silence, her wrinkled face softening with every brushstroke. Soon a baker paused beside her, then a fruit seller. Then a group of curious children. None of them spoke at first. The baker finally asked, "Is this meant to be our village?" Sammy replied, "It's what our village could become." The words lingered in the air like a gentle breeze. As more villagers gathered, old memories surfaced. Some remembered friendships lost over misunderstandings. Others thought about harsh words they wished they could take back. Two men who had not spoken in years stood shoulder to shoulder, staring at the mural. One whispered, "We used to laugh together." The other nodded slowly. "Maybe we still can." It was not a dramatic moment, no loud apologies or sudden embraces, but something quiet shifted inside the crowd. Children were the first to truly change. Inspired by Sammy, they began bringing their own drawings to the square, pictures of games, picnics, and peaceful neighborhoods. They painted hearts and stars around Sammy's mural. Laughter returned to the square, hesitant at first, then stronger with each passing day. Sammy realized that peace did not arrive like thunder. It grew slowly, like seeds planted in soft soil. When the weekly market arrived, the atmosphere felt strangely lighter. Some vendors placed small copies of Sammy's painting near their stalls. Arguments turned into conversations. A woman who had not spoken to her neighbor for years offered her fresh bread. Two rival shopkeepers shared a joke. People began to notice that cooperation made the day easier and far more joyful. Travelers passing through Lumen Hollow carried the story of the child who painted peace. Nearby villages grew curious. Some visitors came simply to see the mural. A few returned home inspired, creating murals in their own towns. Slowly, a chain reaction of kindness began beyond the valley, but Sammy never saw himself as a hero. Whenever praised, he said, "I only painted what already lived inside your hearts." One evening, the villagers gathered in the square under a sky full of stars. For the first time in years, people spoke honestly about their mistakes and fears. They listened to one another, truly listened. Apologies were offered quietly, forgiveness came gently. The teacher stood beside Sammy and whispered, "Sometimes it takes a child to remind adults how to be human." Months later, a serious disagreement arose over land boundaries. Old tensions threatened to return. Instead of shouting, the villagers gathered in front of Sammy's mural. They discussed the issue calmly, remembering how far they had come. The solution took hours, but when they finished, everyone felt proud. The mural had become more than painted, was a promise. The villagers began holding a monthly day of colors. Children and adults gathered to paint their hopes for the future. Walls once marked by anger were transformed into galleries of dreams. Visitors described the village as a living canvas. Sammy continued to draw, but he was no longer alone. Peace had become a shared responsibility. One day, a younger child asked Sammy, "Did your painting create peace?" Sammy smiled and answered, "The painting opened a door." People chose to walk through it. Years passed. The mural faded slightly with time, but its meaning grew stronger. Generations remembered the day a child dared to imagine a better world and showed it to others through color. Long after Sammy grew older, travelers still visited Lumen Hollow to see the famous mural. Guides would tell them, peace did not arrive with armies or rulers. It began with a child who believed kindness could be seen, and every new visitor left with the same realization. Sometimes the greatest changes begin not with loud speeches or grand plans, but with a quiet act of hope, a brave imagination, and the courage to draw a future no one else has yet dared to see.